Hello, welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. You are joined by two of your usual hosts. We have Tom Mannering's back.
Way!
Hey!
Celebrating my own return.
Yeah. I just wanted an excuse to edit in air horns at some point this episode. How are you doing?
Hang on. And also, Josh Hartley's here! Just a dust bowl.
Yeah, I'm gonna get crickets for that bit. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. We were saying before we started recording, I'm finishing up for a week's holiday tomorrow. I say this to rub it in Tom's face again, basically.
I know, because I reacted so well the first time you told me that news. You thought you'd just tell me about it again. Yeah, that's great, buddy. I'm real happy for you. Real happy.
You know, holidays are something that is available to you as well.
I have
in
holidays
your line
booked.
of work.
In your line of work. Yeah, I have holidays. I have holidays in June.
There we are. We're practically there. So
we are practically there. It's weird because I don't normally get holidays in June, July because our work, obviously, you have families, right? And obviously people tend to want to have their holidays in June and July because the kids are off school. But so I usually let other people take them because I don't have kids. So I won't take them in June and July. But this year, nobody's using their holidays because obviously people are wanting to wait until they can really kind of travel and things. So I was like, I'm gonna have a June holiday. I'm gonna treat myself.
Yeah, damn right.
Look at me being all fancy.
You could holiday in the UK somewhere. You could have a long weekend in Blackpool. How about that?
Oh God, that's like torture. I am hopefully either going to visit my mum or my mum is going to come to visit me if circumstances allow. So that'll be nice. Funnily enough, it all depends on when we both get our respective COVID jabs booked in because we're both kind of due around that period of time to have our jabs. So we're kind of waiting to see what appointments we get and then we'll figure something out. So that's something to look forward to. And I mean, you've got holidays. What are you going to do? You going to do something exciting?
I am going to see my parents, actually. Which will be the first time I've seen them since August last year. So,
check you out.
Because, thank you, COVID. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. My sister and her son are going to be there, and my brother and his daughter will be there as well. And me, without children. So, yeah, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
That'll be nice.
Rightio. Shall we dive into some tabletop gaming related stuff? Shall we quickly talk about Wizards of the Coast have their annual survey up? So I don't know. I've filled this out for the past few years at least. Anyway, do you normally complete it as well, or?
I think I've done it once.
Yeah.
I'm not that interested. Not in a bad way, but it's just not something I feel the need to participate in particularly. I think it's good that they do it. I think it's really important to engage with your community in that way. But it's not something I have a particular strong feeling on one way or the other.
Yeah, and so I do it, and I think it's like you say, it's a good thing that they do. Clearly they want to listen to their community to see what they want. So if you have strong feelings about either Magic the Gathering or Dungeons and Dragons, by all means definitely take this survey, because Wizards use this to inform their decision making when it comes to new products in the future. So definitely complete it. We'll include the link below. I'm just about to do that. But speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, and speaking of Magic the Gathering, we've had our first tidbits of this summer release of Adventures in Forgotten Realms for Magic the Gathering.
We have.
So
indeed.
You've had a chance to check these out, yeah?
Yeah. So I I think I've mentioned on previous episodes, I am a very, very casual Magic player. Gone are the days that I get very, very excited about it. I haven't bought a physical magical card, a physical Magic card, or a physical magical card, in case there's any, Yu-Gi-Oh!
If you
players
plant
out there.
it will grow into like a card tree.
A booster tree.
Yes. That would be awesome.
No, I haven't really bought any for a good few years, and I sold a lot of my collection and just kept my decks. But I will say this is probably going to be the set that will encourage me to buy some physical cards again.
Yeah.
And I certainly have been playing the online Magic game in sort of preparation to kind of get back into the swing of things as well. I quite like the current set as well, the Harry Potter set, as I like to call it. I think that's kind of fun as well. So that's some good stuff. So yeah, I've had a look over. There's not been many spoilt. There's been about a dozen, give or take. But there's some really interesting D&D Forgotten Realms themed cards. So we've got things like Tiamat, who is one of the gods of the Forgotten Realms. She is the dragon god.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really cool, like, even looking at it, I was like, this is really cool for like a dragon commander deck, because she's all colours and she's legendary and she's just badass. And her ability is really cool as well. Like, you put her into play and she lets you pick like 5 dragons from your deck.
Search for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have different names. Reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle when she enters the battlefield. So that's like you point out, like another commander for like a dragon tribal deck.
Yeah,
which would be sweet.
Really cool. So I really like the look of her. One thing I did notice, and I was actually ask you about it. So I remember when the god keyword was introduced back in Theros. And at that point in time, all the gods were indestructible. But Tiamat isn't indestructible. Have they moved away from that?
Yes.
Right.
They printed some gods in Amonkhet, which was like the Egyptian themed set. They weren't indestructible, but they had other ways of representing the fact that they're eternal sentient creatures. Right. So like those ones, if it was killed, you would return it to your hand.
Right.
At the end of the turn. So sort of not indestructible, but kind of indestructible, basically.
Yeah, you can't really get rid of it permanently, kind of thing.
Yeah. Although Tiamat doesn't have anything along those lines.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was a bit of a shame. Like, she seems a little bit underpowered for a god almost. She's got really cool ability, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. It doesn't look like a card that's pushed for competitive play, let's put it like that.
Yeah.
But still a cool card.
Oh, definitely.
It'll still see a ton of play, even if it's not the best. We've got some other things. They've revealed a couple of bits of some magic items from the D&D universe that have crossed over. We've got the Vorpal Sword and the Portable Hole as well, which I think is neat. We've got a spell, which is based off a famous spell in Dungeons & Dragons, Power Word Kill, which pretty much does what it says on the tin. It's pretty on the nose.
A lot of, and this is a weird sentence, but there's a lot of black love in this set. Like, you've got the Power Word Kill is black, the Vorpal Sword is black, the Beholder looks like it's going to be black. So black seems to be getting a really a nice collection of some of the, certainly from what we've seen so far, some of the really strong tied D&D stuff. And I hope we see more of that. And I mean, it certainly makes sense for Power Word Kill and the Beholder. I thought the Vorpal Sword as a black card was a weird choice, because the Vorpal Sword's not evil in and of itself.
Well, and I push my non-existent glasses up my nose as I say this. Well, actually, black is not evil in Magic the Gathering either. Black is the color. It's the color that represents death and ambition, but it's not necessarily evil. I know you're looking at me in a skeptical way.
Bollocks,
but
mate.
It's strictly speaking true.
Nah.
There are plenty of
No. No. Zombies, skeletons, demons,
Death.
murder. Yes,
There's
death,
a lot,
but
yeah,
also evil.
There's a lot of evil, but it's not exclusively, is what I'm saying. All right.
Okay.
For example, he racks his brain for an example of there are some evil white creatures. Kemble from the Kaladesh set. You've also, in fact, Baral as well is pretty evil, and he's pure blue. He's also from Kaladesh as well.
But like the way I always saw it, and this is just my opinion, is like if you saw it in kind of like a yin and yang kind of way, I always saw white was always sort of the more benevolent colour, but might have some shades of grey and darker aspects. And black was the opposite side of the spectrum. You know, it was always a bit more evil. Might have some people who, you know, bit of kind of your grey necromancers, people who maybe utilise the darker magics for less sinister purposes. But I like look at the card art on like a black deck. Just pick out any random black deck and tell me that is not evil.
This is true. However, there is one very important character who is black in Magic the Gathering that is not evil, and that is Liliana.
She's pretty dodgy.
She's pretty dodgy, but she comes good in the end. She's the one who takes down, spoilers for a set from a couple of years back, she's the one who takes down Nicol Bolas and saves everyone from him, eventually.
She doesn't really do that so much in a benevolent way, though. She does that because he's a threat to her, and she likes to be a, you know...
She does it because Gideon sacrificed himself to save her, and she now feels guilt for that. Because she's in that, as you put it, the Harry Potter set as an alter ego, and she's feeling remorse for how things have panned out. And she's still black, I'll point out as well. Okay. So, Markov
and I'm not finished. When Garruk goes evil, he turns from green to black as well.
He went to green black.
Yeah. When he was evil, they put black on him. Like, come on.
I don't think Garruk was ever good.
He was like a primal force though. When he was, you know.
He was a hunter.
Anyway, moral debates aside.
Right. Let's put aside like the design philosophy and plot of Magic the Gathering. Sorry, like half our listeners at least.
I think that's what they come for, really. That's what the listening audience wants. They tune in like, God, I hope Tom and Josh have an argument about the morality.
Ben has definitely tuned out by now. I can confirm that.
Ben doesn't listen to our episodes.
He does.
He's like, it'll be fine.
He does. I'm telling you, man. Ben, if you're listening to this episode, message Tom and tell him off for not having faith in you listening to us.
That's a real focused comment. Now what little audience we had left, they've gone as well. They're not even talking to me anymore.
There's one card that we need to discuss as well from this reveal. And that is, they revealed a card called Prosperous Innkeeper. Not particularly exciting. It's a 1/1 green creature, but it's a halfling. That's going to be the first halfling printed in Magic the Gathering, and that's a new creature type now.
He's not bad either. He gives you a treasure token, which is meh. But then, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. That's a nice.
Yeah, you could build like a sort of Soul Sisters deck maybe in standard with him. I don't know if there's any others that do a similar thing at the moment, but yeah. It, like a life gain deck would love this guy.
Be nice in a green-white deck as well.
Well, but like that, for me, the more interesting thing is they're printing halflings now. So I kind of wonder what design ideas they're going to have for them and how they're going to represent the Forgotten Realms halflings in Magic the Gathering. Do you reckon we'll get other like Forgotten Realms creature types, such as, well, you mentioned beholders, but do you think we'll get tieflings and the like? Maybe.
I mean, you've got things like the Dragonborn. You've got things like tieflings, Aasimar, which is weird because they're not entirely dissimilar to demons and angels and dragons as well. So, but as you said before we started recording, you were quite surprised that they went for halfling instead of Kithkin.
Which is like the magic equivalent of it.
Yeah, so it does look like they are steering more into that side of things, you know, in actually focusing on the Forgotten Realms content and keeping it true to that. So I kind of hope they stay true to it. It reduces the sort of the way you can interact it with other cards, but it keeps it true to the source material, which is nice.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking if they bring out a few more green halflings, I can expand my squirrel deck to a squirrel halfling deck.
I don't know why that combo makes sense, but it does.
Yeah. Just works. It's whimsical.
Yeah. So the Forgotten Realms set will be coming out this summer, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll definitely be giving it a go. I dare say, if we can, Tom and I might go to a pre-release together.
That's a lot of nerds.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe. I'd potentially be up for that.
Cool. Moving on. Obviously, we had all the Warhammer Fest stuff last week, and Ben and I discussed that at length last episode. But we haven't had Tom's reaction to this yet. So, what the people want to know, Tom. What do you think? What did you think of the reveals from Warhammer Fest?
I would be very diplomatic, and I will say I was quite underwhelmed.
Okay.
I think is probably the fairest way to put it. I thought there was some good stuff, and I'm not going to say there wasn't, because there certainly was. But to sort of parallel that, the thing I was most excited about from a Warhammer Fest release week was a book, like a novel.
Oh.
And that speaks quite a bit about, you know, the content. So like the thing I was most interested in was, because it was the first time I'd seen it anyway, was the new Gotrek book that's coming out.
Oh, Gate Slayer.
Yeah, which is cool. And I don't know, that might have even been announced beforehand, but it was the first time I saw it.
I don't think it was actually part of the Warhammer Fest.
That's even worse. That's even worse. I assumed it was, because it was in that kind of period.
Right. So let's analyze. So for a start, Ben and I both said we think it probably would have appeared better if they didn't stretch it out over a whole week. Do you agree with that? Do you think that's part of the problem?
Yeah, it was very much the Bilbo Baggins butter spread too thinly over bread kind of situation. They had some good stuff, but they spread it out so much that you were like, this is fine, I guess.
So the other thing then, so the highlights for me were the new vampires. They look really cool.
Yep.
We're getting them very soon. And the new Space Orcs, they look great.
Yeah. I think, so the things I saw that I liked the vampires. I think what they're doing with the undead range at the moment, from sort of Cursed City and obviously the range that's coming out, is great. Kudos on that. Really good work. The new Orcs, I liked the preview that we saw a few weeks back, and it's good seeing more on that, and again, some good stuff in there. I like them. I'm not really excited about them because I'm not an Orc player.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it's like it's one of those things where objectively, yeah, they're very good models, really cool, but for me, it's not really pressing any buttons. And I will say I like the new design on the Stormcast as well. I like the sleeker design Stormcast, with like the armor's a bit slimmer and things, and I like the heavy set ones.
See, that's interesting, because I think the Stormcast were, while I get that they're nice models, I am not excited about them at all. They're not the worst thing from the release. I think worst thing from the release is definitely Sisters of Battle, right? They just look a bit derpy.
Wasn't too impressed with Sisters of Battle. I said to you when it was announced, like the Gaunt's Ghost things, lovely models, but who was asking for them? You know, who was like, we need... I think this is like the third time Gaunt's Ghosts have been given models. At least the second time as a unit they've been given it, and I think there's been at least 3 Gaunt models by now. And I'm like, I've never seen it on the field. Not once. Like, even when I worked in Games Workshop,
Yeah,
nobody fielded them.
People don't buy those minis to like play them in a game. They buy them to paint them up and display them. So
I disagree. Okay. I think any mini should be potentially usable on the battlefield and should see use on the battlefield. Surely that's the point of a miniatures wargaming company, right? Like, when you cut out everything else, like, yeah, they're beautiful minis. Yes, they look great on display. Yes, you can do fantastic paint jobs on them. These are all valid things. I'm not saying they're not. But when you make a model for a war game, that model should probably see use in a war game.
Yeah, you can, but I think they are more aimed at collectors, clearly.
I'm not on board.
Okay.
Because I bought the Gotrek model, right? By contrast, I bought the Gotrek model. I have every intention of fielding that.
Okay.
Like, that is why I bought it. I was like, yeah, I want Gotrek on the battlefield. That's awesome. Like, that's going to be so cool, actually getting to have a character I really like playing games and have a really cool model as well. And if I bought the Gaunt's Ghosts, I would be in the same mindset, but I don't think they'll see a lot of use on the battle. I could be wrong, maybe they will. But anyway, so that I found that really underwhelming as well. It was a lot of underwhelming.
What about Krabby?
Krabby was cool.
Everyone loves Krabby.
And there's been so many memes for Krabby. But one crab does not a release meme, right? Like, there's you can put a lot on the back of that crab, but there's a line, right? He can't carry the whole thing. I think really what I'd be looking at for next year if I were Games Workshop is how can we make a crab army based around this model.
Crab people.
Like that's what the people want to see.
Yeah,
get
clearly. So yeah, that's Tom's thoughts on Warhammer Fest there.
Like, I went to Games Days back in the day, and I've followed Warhammer Fest since and similar, and there's been some absolutely cracking releases, right? Some really cool announcements, and this one it's just like have a bunch of meh, have a bunch of things that aren't really that great. They're
really
fine.
Down on this.
I am. I'll say no one else is willing to say it, so I'll say it.
No, I think it was okay. It was like a B minus.
B minus.
Well, what are you grading it?
C plus at best.
Oh, that's. You're acting as if my B minus is outrageous, where your grade is like a half grade different from mine.
A B minus is a good grade. It is like if I got a B minus, good. C plus is like your average and a little bit more, which isn't great, right? It's like you've passed, and you get a pat on the back. That's the difference. That's the line. Grading's very tenuous.
I'm gonna message Ben and get his grade for Warhammer Fest. I'm doing it right now.
Grade Warhammer Fest.
Yeah, hold on. He won't respond in time for the episode for the.
I know
recording,
you'll have to cut this.
Yeah, would you grade Warhammer Fest? There we go. He'll. Truth be told, right, he'll come back and he'll make the very sensible point of gradings are ridiculous. Right? I
think if they'd done it in a weekend, it would have been a lot easier to take away the positives from it. But because each day you were like, I wonder what they're going to announce tonight, and then you'd get to it and you'd be like, oh. Right, okay.
Well, I think the only weekday was really Tuesday. Right? I said on last week's episode, I don't really care for Black Library novels, so I didn't even watch that one, so I have no opinion on it. But Tuesday was the only day that I was like, oh, this is... but everything else was pretty strong, albeit I think we all expect now these reveal streams to be an hour long, and obviously they were not all an hour long. So
I think they played their hand a wee bit, because I would have probably, and I mean I don't know what goes on in the background, obviously. I would have held Bellicor back for that. Like, I think Bellicor would have given that a big boost that it needed, really, in my opinion. But I don't work for GW, not anymore, and I don't make these decisions. So who knows? It was fine, right? It's something. It's better than a kick in the teeth. There you go. That's the resounding praise.
Review of Warhammer Fest was better than a kick in the teeth. I'm getting very distracted, by the way. Tom is drinking a cup of tea, right? And on the base of the cup of tea is someone giving the middle finger. It's like every time he sips from his tea, and he's been sipping a lot.
There's not been any tea in there for the last 10 minutes. So this is a cup I got off my team at work. It says "World's Greatest Boss," which is very nice of them. And then when you drink from it, it has the middle finger on the bottom of it, which I didn't realize when they got it for me. Right, so I was like, no. what a sweet gesture from my team. What lovely people they are. And then I went on like a conference call at work and was like drinking away, and I looked at myself on the conference call and could see myself giving the middle finger to all of my peers and boss, and I was like, oh dear. This is luckily I don't think anyone noticed, or if they did, they didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very nice gesture with a humorous connotation afterwards. So,
excellent. Yeah.
And it means I can give Josh the middle finger mid-podcast, and no one would have known if he hadn't said anything.
Exactly. Well, I've rumbled you. Anyway, gaming-wise, what have we been up to over the last few weeks?
I always go first, so I want you to go first for a change.
Oh.
Put you on the spot.
Oh, my mind's drawing blank now. I've been like I continue to get a bit more back into Magic the Gathering. I've been really enjoying the new set. Not necessarily drafting it, but what I have been doing is I've been playing Historicon Arena, and I've been just really getting my teeth into that. I'm trying to get to diamond level on the ladder, and I'm not quite there. So that's my goal for this month. And I've been continuing to go on the webcam commander nights that me and some of the other guys at Geekaboo have been doing as well. So the last week I built a deck around a card called Judith the Scourge Diva. She's a Rakdos, one of the Rakdos leaders, and I built like a tokens deck around her, and that was really fun. Okay. So I've really been enjoying that. Otherwise, I've hit a hobby milestone earlier this week, and I'm quite proud of myself for it. I have got all of the Necrons from the Indomitus box set complete. I've painted them all, and I've got a photograph to prove it. So I was just quite like, yeah, I've achieved something here.
I don't know why, but like when you said I've hit a hobby milestone, I kind of envisioned, I don't know if your parents ever did this when you were younger, mine certainly didn't, but I saw people's who did, where they would have like a chart on like the kitchen wall, and if they did like certain things, they'd get like a star or, you know, some sort of marker of the success, you know, they'd done, whether it was like you got an A at school or you did the washing up or whatever it was. And I just kind of imagined you alone in your house, finishing painting the last Necron, sort of solemnly putting it down, standing up, walking over to the counter, picking up a little sticker book, and just walking up to a little chart you made yourself.
I mean, I don't do that, and my parents never did that either when I was growing up. But maybe I should do that. You know, like it reinforce that feeling of accomplishment every time I achieve something.
You do that, buddy.
You know.
Sure, that'll look good.
Finished painting Necrons, got all my work done on time, didn't feel lonely, you know, that sort of stuff.
Mine would be like an even lower bar. It would be like put on pants, went outside, you know. Talked to another person. You know,
guys, lockdown's been rough. Lockdown's been rough. No, but like, it's important to have like it's important to set goals, I think, for hobby projects, right? So that's one goal that I've hit. So next goal is I've got the Battle Force kit, and I've got the Necrons from Kill Team that you kindly gave to me. to get painted up as well. So they're next on the block.
Nice.
So I'm going to make a start on them. Do you know what I need, though? I've ran out of black undercoat, so I'm going to need to try and get that.
Raging.
Yeah. Awful.
On a hobby note, I have sent my Gene Stealers away to be painted.
Ooh.
A friend of mine, who I won't name, but a friend of mine has offered to paint them up for me very nicely. So hopefully in a few months' time, I will have a fully painted Gene Stealer force ready for when we can play again.
Can we get another game of 40k in, please?
Maybe. I mean, not right now. They're
No.
they're away.
They're being painted.
But certainly when they come back, I'll definitely want to play with them. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm really excited about that. I've picked a color scheme and everything. So
I was gonna say, like, what color scheme are you going for?
I'm doing them Twisted Helix, which is sort of an aquarish blue for the armor, and then kind of the classic Gene Stealer color scheme, the kind of purple and blue, which is the one I really like. I've seen some much nicer organic and color schemes and things like that, which are really nice. But I like that classic Gene Stealer look has always been a favourite of mine, so I'm sticking to that for them. So that's really exciting. I would have loved to paint them myself, but I just don't have the time at the moment, and I don't have the patience either at the minute. I have so many painting projects already that adding to it was just nightmarish. And I was chatting to him, and I was like, I really want this army painted, but I'm just not going to do it. And he was like, I'll do it. It's like, yes!
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Good work, Tom's friend.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Over and above that, what have I been doing? I've had quite a quiet week on the RPG front this week, with the exception of I ran High Level Pathfinder for yourself on Tuesday, which was fun.
Locag got to kick some ass.
We did, yeah. We did some. You had sort of a fight against a warm-up fight, and then a fight against some a really nasty mythic ice elemental, and then you fought an army of barbarians, which went well.
Yeah, it actually did went well. We managed to. I think we pretty much killed half of them, and the rest ran.
You demolished half of their army, which was about 150 to 100 to maybe 180, 200, using rules for that rather than 200 models.
Yes.
You demolished them in about 12 seconds, and they broke.
It was a lot of that was down to Dave's character Alanon. He's playing a druid, and low-key probably the most powerful character out of the lot of us, but we don't get to see his stuff all that much, because I think a lot of his stuff is good at, like, for that sort of scenario and, like, dealing with a mass number of enemies, right?
He has really good area effects stuff, yeah. He's got things like Mythic Black Tentacles and Firestorm, and really good against big groups of units, which has happened on a couple of occasions, and he's done really well in those situations. And then after that, yesterday I did character gen for a new game I'm starting for a group of people. I'm only running it once a month, just to let the Wednesday night GM have a night off. And I'm running Star Trek Adventures by Modiphius.
You've spoken about this system previously and how you wanted to give it a go. So, tell me how it works then.
So it's really simple. You have 6 stats, 6 skills, and then you have a bunch of values, a bunch of focuses, and a bunch of talents that kind of can factor in on those stats. And you basically it's got a really cool character creation system. It's got a life path system, which other games have used similar, but you actually kind of play through your character's formative years when you create a character. So you pick your race, you pick your home world, or your upbringing. No, you pick your race, you pick your place of like growing up kind of thing. So it might be like on your home world, it might be on like a colony, it might be on a ship, and then you pick your upbringing, so the kind of lifestyle that your parents kind of brought you up into, and you have a choice at that point whether you want to embrace that lifestyle or rebel, and that kind of dictates some of your characteristics. And then you have what happens to you at Starfleet Academy, and you kind of choose your path, whether you're going to go down command, operations, or sciences. And then you have 2 life events, which are a lot of choices of things that have happened that are kind of defining things in your character's background. So it can be stuff like the ship you're on got destroyed, or a friend died, or you had first contact with an alien race, lots of stuff like that. So we played through that last night. It took a while because you're basically, I've got 5 players, and you're basically taking 5 people through this. Like I did a stage, did everyone, moved to the next stage, did everyone. I mean, it's really, really cool. And then once we'd kind of worked out all the characters, you also build the ship as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, so you pick what model of ship you want, you pick what that ship's designed to do, which can dictate things that it's got. So is it a diplomatic vessel, is it a warship, is it a scientific vessel, is it a test bed for like new equipment and things like that. So that's really cool. Then you pick like what talents the ship's got, so like what's it good at, what's it bad at. You name it, you give it an NC number, which is all really fun. And yeah, it's a really fun like character creation system. Like we didn't play at all, we just built the characters and the ship, and I also let them build the captain as well, because nobody wanted to play the captain, so they said they wanted an NPC captain, so they built the captain as well.
Nice.
So it's really fun. And the Modiphius system, I've watched a few Let's Plays of it, I've dabbled with it a little bit myself. It's really, really good, really fun.
Cool. So I'm gonna do my best here, because I am not a Star Trek fan. I have watched like a handful of episodes of Next Generation, and that's it. So like, where in the timeline is it set, or is that flexible?
It is flexible. So in the core rulebook, you can put it in the Enterprise era, which is
the original series,
right?
No.
Oh. The Enterprise era is before the original series. The first sort of proper ship the Federation had was called just Enterprise, right. And it was very kind of rugged, bit more closer to like how NASA run a ship.
Sure.
It had kind of the aesthetics of a Star Trek ship, but it had like, you know, didn't have all the frills that the Enterprise that you know from the original series would have. That has the guy from Quantum Leap in as the main character. I don't know if you know Quantum Leap, but he was the main character in that. It's a good series if you've not watched it. Then you've got the original series, so you can play the Kirk era, and then you've got Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager are all kind of in a similar timeline.
Yeah, they're very like from what I understand, they're all very close together in terms of the chronology, whereas like the others are like several generations apart. Right.
They cross over, so just as Next Gen's kind of winding down, Voyager and Deep Space Nine pick up, and they run almost kind of parallel to each other. There's only maybe a year or two out of those. So my game is running the default time assumption. If you do the Next Generation era, which is what I am doing, is you are just on the tail end of Next Gen finishing, just as Deep Space Nine and Voyager are kind of picking up. So we're running there, which is cool. But yeah, it's a good period. There's lots of stuff going on in the Federation. I'm not going to go into it because you're just going to stare blankly at me for 5 minutes.
I because Star Trek is such a humongous like science fiction franchise. Even though I'm not a fan of it and I don't watch it, I do understand like elements of it. So because you're setting it in the Next Gen, I suppose that opens character creation to having Klingons.
It does,
right?
Yeah.
Because you're not at war with Klingons anymore.
Yeah,
so
we have a very diverse crew, I think is probably the fairest way to put it. We have a Klingon security officer, so not very original, but it's a classic. We have a Gorn medical officer. Gorn are like big, burly lizard people.
Like Dr. Lizard.
Yeah,
basically.
Dr. Lizard.
Nice.
We have a Trill engineer. Trill they have like a symbiote that lives inside them.
Okay.
That kind of has memories of the previous people that the symbiotes lived inside of.
Ooh. Don't like that. Don't like that.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
We have a human Exo, second in command, and we have a Vulcan Rigelian. He's kind of half and half science officer.
Gotta have a Vulcan in there somewhere, right?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a very interesting crew, and they are. Their ship is called the USS Leif Erikson, named after the Norwegian explorer that first discovered America, I think, if my history's right, before Christopher Columbus. Because they chose a Norway-class ship and decided that it'd be fun to name it after
a famous Norwegian.
Famous Norwegian, yeah. So
hey, that's neat. I like that. And what's the captain called?
Captain Vizu, I think she's called. She is a... Oh, what are they called? I forgot the name of them. It's Benzite. She's a Benzite, which are these, like... They're kind of fish people.
Right.
They have, like... They're this weird sort of, like, their faces... They're blue. They have kind of clammy-looking skin, and they have, like, kind of very droopy cheeks. We rolled it randomly.
You're playing a female Admiral Akbar.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, yeah, and they can't breathe like humanoid atmosphere, so they have to have like a little rebreather thing on as well.
Oh wow!
So she's the captain of the ship because it was just random, but it's cool. It's interesting. I like how sort of eclectic it is because that's totally Star Trek. It's they have a lot of mixed things in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, in a lot of respects, Star Trek maybe not is unique, but I think it is unusual in that its view of the future is very optimistic, generally speaking. Yeah. I know a lot of bad stuff happens in the Star Trek world, but like, compare it to Warhammer 40,000, which is bleak as anything.
Yeah.
I would even say like Star Wars has like some pretty dark moments in it, whereas Star Trek has this idea that like at some point humanity's just going to overcome all of its petty rubbish and we'll all start working together somehow, and that's like a very
yeah, I mean, like,
believe
especially
in the human spirit.
Especially the Next Generation. I think some of the later seasons do certainly take on a darker tone, and some people rile against that. Like Picard, the series Picard, a lot of people are like, it's very dark in tone and blah blah blah. But Next Gen definitely it was a utopian society. The Federation was this exemplary organization. There was some small corruption in there and some questionable characters, but overall, it was it welcomed any race. It welcomed all these unique societies, and and tried to balance. I've actually been watching through the Next Generation as part of my prep because I like to watch things that kind of excite me about whatever I'm running. And I've not watched Next Gen for ages, and it's so good. Like, it holds up really well, and it's such a weird show because nowadays, it's all like sex and action, and I sound like an old man when I say this, right? But it's like nowadays, you look at something like Game of Thrones or The Boys and these things that have been quite popular, and they're all like loads of action, loads of like really high stakes and morally ambiguous characters and all this lot. And Next Gen's just like, we're here, we're exploring. I'm here with my buddies. Oh, here's a weird alien in strange makeup. Let's try and befriend it. And it's actually a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be when I was kind of rewatching it, because I thought it was going to be quite dry, but it has a lot of good comedy in there as well. But yeah, it's really weird. Like as you say, seeing this like very upbeat and positive spin on the future when there's been so much doom and gloom in other content.
I mean, are these things maybe just like products of their time though? Like, certainly the original series of Star Trek came from 1960s America, which was like had every reason to be very, with the exception of the threat of nuclear war, which like loomed heavy later on in the decade. But certainly initially, there was a sort of optimism to America at the start of that decade. And probably for the 80s as well, when they started doing Next Gen. You know, Reagan-era America, while it was not very good for a lot of people, it was exceptionally good for others. So
it's interesting because as much as it does capture a lot of those very positive mindsets, especially of those era of the US, it's very anti capitalism, and it has a lot of political commentary in it as well. Like, because they meet, going completely off topic here, but they meet races like the Ferengi that are societies driven by material wealth, and they kind of scoff at them and like, oh, you know, capitalism's a base instinct and all this kind of stuff. So it really does kind of rile against, you know, that's not the way forward.
Interesting.
When it was in an era where, you know, capitalism and you know, how much could a man earn with the sweat of his brow kind of thing was a big focus for the US, and you know, anyone could come in and earn all this wealth and prosperity. So it's a weird sort of polar opposites in a way that it does kind of sing to the hopefulness of America at that period of time, but then completely flies in the face of what was driving that.
I mean, certainly, I think we can agree, like, the reason why we have, like, these dark, ultra-violent TV shows now is a reflection on how cynical people have become, right? I don't think that's a particularly big jump, is it?
No, definitely not. I think that's very reflective of the society we live in, which is sad in a way, but, you know...
I don't know, maybe... turning this into a therapy session, maybe this is like why I'm not too fussed about TV series at the moment. Like,
that's fair.
I don't know. The real world's rubbish enough. Like, I want to get a bit of escapism, and
but I think the escapism is that we're not even a gaming podcast at this moment. We're completely
we're so far removed from it. But like, let's not stop.
But I think, like, you're right. There's certainly cynical content, and it's, you know, it isn't the same escapism. But if you look at a lot of that stuff, like by way of example, Game of Thrones is quite cynical. The Boys is quite cynical. But these kinds of shows, as much as they have a cynical outlook on governments and the world and, you know, all this stuff, there's always the underdogs kind of pushing against it. So it as much as there is a cynical overview, there is this little light in the middle of it. And I sound very hippy-dippy here.
And what happens to all of those underdogs? Because of what I've seen of Game of Thrones, most of them get killed.
Most, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
And it does end with a good person being put on the respective thrones.
Because everyone was real happy about the ending of that series.
Yep. You know, I mean, there's suffering, right? And there's loss. And that certainly isn't so much of the escapism. But I think the underlying message is, you know, just because it's bleak and it's hard and it's difficult doesn't mean you give up. Doesn't mean there is no hope. So that's what I take away from it. That's my spin on that. That's why I love to get back to what we actually supposed to do a podcast about. That's why I love horror games and you know, adversity in these kinds of games. You know, games where you're really kind of pushing against. It's why I play the shit armies in like 40k. Because I like the idea of the little guy, the loser, pushing up against, you know, the dark odds and things, and it's the same with like horror games. You know, in my opinion, Genestealer cultists aren't the bad guys in 40k at all. I don't see the army as that. They're not good guys, but you know, the Imperium is.
Oh yeah, the Imperium
is the oppressor.
The Imperium of Man in 40k is evil. There's no two ways about it. If you think that they're the good guys, you're mistaken.
You know, if you look at the Genestealer cults, what are they doing? They're just a race trying to propagate their species. You know, spread the good word of their particular way of life. And have some freedom in doing
and call upon an invasion of xenomorphs to eat everyone.
That's over there. That's not. Let's not talk about that right now. Let's just focus on the moment. Bit of freedom and liberation from this imperial oppression. That's the way I see it.
Oh dear. Right. On that note, should we draw this episode to a close?
I think so. I think that's a
cool.
good place to leave it.
We brought it back to gaming at least.
We did.
So, you know,
we're professionals, right? Like, we go off on tangents.
Yeah.
We talk about our own things. We send out messages to our friends via podcast, but we're professionals. Did Ben reply, by the way?
Oh, he did. Stars, letters, what scale? Well, we need to elaborate. Great, as in F to A. I will see if he responds. It did take him 13 minutes to respond to the first message, so
might
do you know
struggle
what? We can hang on a bit, and we'll see. So we've got a response from Ben. He grades Warhammer Fest a B, solid B.
Solid B.
Yeah, I added the solid. That's me, but he graded it a B.
I wish Ben was one of my teachers when I was at school. You know, I really could have done with someone to bump those grades up a bit.
I did also mention what we graded it, and his comment is simply, "Tom's a pessimist, though."
But I'm not. We discussed that I'm not. I'm harsh. I'm not a pessimist.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You don't look
convinced.
convinced.
First, folks. Tom's not a pessimist.
I'm not. I'm gonna go really squeaky if I keep trying to defend myself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Will we draw the episode to a close now?
Let's do that.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.